forever remain. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Get your in here. Woo! Get in here, get in here, get in here, get in here, get in here. Get in here. Ashley may do it right now. Forever remain. I won't let them change me. I remain. Forever remain. Yup, you see them notes. You know, the GOAT. The GOAT got the notes. Oh, damn. You see how you get frustrated and boom, it just do its own thing. Now, next time, I need to know how to remember this position, okay? The calculations of the diagram of the angle of the parentheses of the... Okay, let's get an honest source. Gratitude for this message I got for y'all. Get it all in here. I already know this probably gonna be a series or like so many different parts because I've got a lot of notes. I got notes here. And y'all know I break this down on levels, different parts, and so forth. Yeah. I almost like don't even know where to start, but I do because there's no right or wrong way. It's just the topic at hand. Let's talk about it. Trauma bonds. Trauma bonds. I tried to do this earlier, but I just knew like at the time it wasn't. Like I said, this gonna be. I'm most likely gonna do 2 or 3 videos of this because there's so many topics. What I'm being called to just like really call out right now because of the energy, because of just everything that's like servicing within me, like the fire and everything. This trauma bond thing. And a lot of this is, again, I told you, it's accountability over here. It's also bring more awareness. It may be uncomfortable for a lot of people, but hey, that's purposeful because I am who the fuck I am. This is who I am. Like standing on business, standing within myself. No, like not like put myself in position to jeopardize a position in a way of like to corrupt my morals, my principles, my beliefs, standing on integrity, standing on business, whatever it is. Y'all. Now, my ladies, my women, my mothers, my sisters, so forth, my darker, lighter, whatever, if you want to go by that, all nationality, creeds, and colors. I'm going to read some things. And it's interesting because in this rising, when I got up, I was called, before I laid down last night, I was up. And I was pondering on a lot of stuff. Probably turn this off. Pondering on some stuff. And trauma bonding was one of the things. But before I rested, I came across this video and it was just talking about like how, even though if you're not into astrology, but this year that we're supposed to be in is a 2025 supposedly. It holds a 9 energy. So if you're not familiar with certain things like that, when you're talking about numbers and how they hold a frequency, to each their own. But if you are, if I give you insight or if you are interested, and see what the number 9 symbolizes. To some people, there are more than, 9 numbers. To others, there are just 9 numbers because anything you put to 9, you're going to get 9. Add, multiply, whatever, you're going to get 9. So the highest number of completion is said to be a 9 before you have a new beginning, which is a 1. So it's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1 and 0 is 10, and 1 and 0 is 1. Again, 9 being, there's a symbolism around 9, like it's being the completion of things karmically, energetically, a high awareness consciously, a high awareness of yourself. And you know, these things can look different for everybody. It can look different. For me, when she mentioned, you know, these are things a lot of us are closing out for good and coming into another, the next new year, which the next year would be 2026, which is two and two, with the 0 is 4, and then the 6 is 10. Again, a whole new beginning. What the sister had mentioned in there, when I came across it, she had mentioned she had mentioned unresolved emotions or unresolved traumas, you know, unresolved emotions. And, you know, that really hit me because I asked myself, what unresolved emotions do I have? If you want to ask yourself, what are unresolved emotions? You can look that up, just like you can look at the number 9 and see what it means spiritually. But the unresolved emotions, I was like, whoa. And that can be energetically what we've been holding on when we don't even realize we've been holding on to. This can be from generationally speaking, ancestrally, relationships, partnerships, business, when we think we moved on, when there's some type of, in the crevices of things, you know, like the eye booger in the corner or something, you thought you cleaned everything out, you cleansed yourself, but there's some unresolved issues, trauma, or emotions that we don't even realize we're harboring. So that being said, I love reminding myself to breathe, because shit, y'all don't realize that. What it came up for me had a lot to do with a lot of relationships, even years ago. Most importantly, a lot of around mothers, sisters, a lot of things around trauma bondings. Now, I'm going to get into something that is going to be very amazing, at the same time can be very triggering, which, again, emotions lead to breakthroughs, breakdowns to be broken through and to be expanded. So it's all perspective. Unresolved emotions, like when I asked myself what came up for me, and you know, I immediately connected a lot of things to my mother, my father, past relationships I had with people. And she also mentioned like what we need to let go of before we actually come into the said next, you know, new year. And it can look different for people. It's not to say you haven't let go, sis or bruh, but what are, again, that you need to tidy up or let go of so that you can even still move into things within this year. But what, again, is unresolved? For people that aren't into certain things when it comes to spirituality or learning about like traumas, adult traumas, and so forth, you know, for those that you aren't aware of that, you know, whether you believe it or not, you know, I'm not here to debate with people on religious things, because that's your world. I don't live in that world. I have evolved and expanded to realize how much, when it comes to my physical, mental, and emotional well-being, that there is a thing called trauma bonding. And there is a thing that is a trauma bond even when it comes to religion. That's probably going to be a whole nother segment or episode. But all of it correlates energetically speaking to where, again, I'm here to ruffle feathers. It is what it is. Like, you know, a leader is going to lead you to yourself, because you lead yourself first. No one truly leads you. You can be guided, you know, you can follow others, but at the end of the day, it's you that's looking in the mirror. For those of you that are above the age to where you are consciously aware that your decisions are yours first, and you know, your emotions and so forth. So with that, the trauma bonding thing, the unresolved emotions, I realized, like, I asked myself, and I had to tell myself, like, you know, let me let go of this trauma bond. Not just trauma bond, but these unresolved traumas within myself. What do I need to let go of? What am I holding on to? Am I still feeling a ways about that, how that relationship, like, it turned out? What am I holding on to? What type of emotion am I still harboring or keeping in, where it's almost blocking me from really experiencing being present or moving on, or moving into, or even if I even moved into a relationship, asking ourselves, okay, did I carry something unresolved? And that's going back to even energetically speaking or spiritually speaking, how in the wombs of our mothers, how we carry things, and then when we come out, you know, the first teachers are our mothers, you know, the nurturing and teaching us. And even if you didn't have it, that still is a part of a belief system and foundation. If a lot of women or men who did not have that emotional support in a healthy or nurturing way, and even if it not being there physically, if you didn't have a mother, you unconsciously still could have created a dynamic or a foundation within yourself that probably is not centered on how important emotions are, and how emotional, you know, how emotions are a part of your experience in any relationship, in any dynamic, and so forth. So, let's get the ball rolling. When I'm diving into, again, this unresolved emotions with me, I'm gonna be honest, there's some stuff that came up for me, like certain friendships that I had to realize like that it could no longer go with me. Certain dynamics with relationships where I felt certain things could have been done differently. I felt I could have done things differently. Being angry with myself, those emotions that are still there. Being angry with the person because I felt like I had an expectancy they could have treated me better, or, you know, I could have, you know, felt like I got the short end of the stick. Again, these are just things that I'm pointing out, because what I'm really about to get into, this shit is wow, it's amazing. But at the same time, it's like, whoa. Because for me, that's how I get. Like, I love doing this. Trauma bonds, and I got unhealthy connections. And like, I'm gonna read off some things, and then I'm trying to see which way I'm gonna go into this. For one, let me say this. Now, I'm mentioning unresolved emotions, which are connected to trauma bonds. Could be in, you know, connect in a way. For those of you that aren't familiar with trauma bonds, you can research it. Again, I do not proclaim to be no expert in being like a therapist or whatever it is. I just come to y'all with my experiences, and I feel like I have the utmost confidence, because again, I went to school for psychology, but it was just not, school was just not my thing. I just always felt like I had this natural knack or just way of speaking, and whether it's empowering or in a way to use my voice to not just only empower, but speak the uncomfortable truths, the things that are not so pleasant to a lot of people, but also in ways where I can give you a visual, an analogy, paint a picture to where it can correlate or connect some way, somehow. If it doesn't, let it fly. But even getting to the depths of just the emotional part of who I am. So I'm able to express a story in ways to where you feel it. And that's that vibration. Like you're able to feel a sense of, if you don't feel safe, then you can probably feel a sense of that uncomfortability, because it's probably rooted in something. Something mirroring back to you, because that's all I am. I'm just a mirror of either your security or your insecurities. But I've just learned to master this thing where using my voice, and this has evolved, because I'm going to talk about my trauma bondings and shit like that, because it's deep. But learning now to transmute and alchemize the energy into what I love to do, which is speaking. So now, again, I'm going to read off some things, and I just do it my own little, you know, amazing funky way, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, this cold weather got my nose, just the boogers be drying in my nose, be cracking blood, and some boogers I can't get, I do dig in my nose. I don't care. Y'all know, real ones know, tissue ain't just gonna get it sometimes. And then people be holding their nose and all that. Sometimes I get a baby wipe, but it still don't get it. I wash my hands out. Mind your business. But it's some things, oh my God. Some weather be really making them boogers hard. They be hardened up like a cave, like a rock in a cave. And it's like, no matter how hard you hit it, you gotta put a bomb in that mud to make them fucking boogers come out. God, I be like, then it scab. Some of you know. See, some of you probably ain't got no big nose, but those of you that do know, it don't make it no better when you got hair in your nose. Lord, boogers just be stuck at the top, just crusted hard. It's like you know, shout out to the ladies that, I don't know, I'm not encouraging waxing, but it feels like when you do that waxing, when they gotta pull it, boy, them boogers be feeling like it's like a wax pool. Anywho, trauma bonds. What I wanted to talk about, getting back into like the trauma bond thing, I don't think a lot of us realize, especially in the demographics that you grew up in, from my experience, darker people, not all, because I also realize like this shit is cultural, this is humanity. Like trauma bonds, if you don't know, research it. Like when you see trauma bonds, it can look different for everybody. I am not here to force nothing down your throat. I'm not finna sit here and just be like, oh, here you go, take it, it's your story. No, it's not. It ain't gotta be. But you may know someone. So it may bring you a different awareness into their life, their story, and maybe have a sense of more empathy and compassion for them. Let's hope that. Or not. To each their own. So I did some little research on things, and some of these things I'm not gonna get into. But man, I'm calling myself out on this shit, because honestly, I feel like if you don't call yourself out on certain things, then not so much people can blackmail you or just use stuff against you. It's just like, I don't have to hide from me. So like, character development is learning from your shortcomings, or some may use the term mistakes, or just learning from you so that you can better yourself, be healthier for yourself. A lot of why I approach this and these things is because I realize that a lot of us haven't had a consistency of healthy relationships, and that's across the board on all levels. And that's what I'm gonna dive deep into. I might get this all in here, but I'm definitely gonna do a part 2. But when I'm saying trauma bonds, I don't think people realize like how deep this runs. And you're talking about from generations, and you're talking about through religion, you're talking about religion's constructs, you're talking about also corporations, businesses, careers, relatives, family, and so forth. Now I'm gonna go through some things, and it says, trauma bonds or unhealthy connections, love bombing, trust, dependency, criticism, manipulation, and gaslighting. Giving up, I think that's what it says. Loss of self, addiction to the cycle. Whoa. And I'm just reading out some things before I dive deep, because, just to give y'all a little rundown. Unhealthy attachment, intense emotion to abuser despite the abuse, alternates. I'll be writing stuff. I'll try to tell y'all. Alternates between being kind and cruel. Y'all don't realize how much come up for me. And I told y'all from the lens of a darker man, but also I speak on different levels of just my experience as a darker man, but also levels of like a human being or just life in itself. Unconscious. Oh, this is the one I was going to get into. So before I dive into what I'm going to say next, now reading that, when it says unhealthy attachment, when you attach something, let's decipher between an attachment and a connection. When you attach something, let's see, could I give an analogy to this? I'm getting like a baby and its mother, like the umbilical cord. Before, some women that went through the snip instead of, a lotus birth, or, it naturally falling away. That in a sense is like attaching ourselves in unhealthy ways. And I don't think people realize like how on so many levels this has been in societal standards, like a very uncomfortable thing that creates suffering. So this trauma bond with these intense emotions and attachments, you're seeing playing out, beginning on different levels of life. Within the womb, I said, like, when the baby comes out, the mother and the child is one in the womb, and the umbilical cord to the I almost said tree of life, but it is in a way, spiritually speaking, the placenta. That placenta is still in a way attached to the child, because a lot of people don't know that importance of how the placenta is hand in hand co-creating or supporting the child, nutrients, feeding, pooping. It's a lot of stuff with that. I've seen it myself with the tubes that's inside. And again, the child, after that child comes through, is no longer in a sense like dependent or attached in a different way as it was before it was in the womb. So that attachment in a way is more so a healthy attachment, because the mother and child and the child and the placenta is literally dependent on each other in a healthy way. Now, when we're talking about connected in a healthy way, let's use that, connected in a healthy way. Now, attachment or unhealthy attachment could be, like it says, an intense emotion, and like, how could I use this? It's like unhealthy attachment, intense emotion, an abuser despite the abuse. Okay, so for a lot of us, we're unaware that a lot of our mothers and fathers, and this is going back to the trauma bond thing, leading into the attachment to things. And I'm going to do my best to express this, how I would see an unhealthy attachment to someone. Now, let's say your mother and father came together and they knew nothing about or had any awareness about trauma bonding. But they basically, now you will know after this, or coming to this self-realization, that even some of your relationships have been trauma bonding, and or how the energy your mother and father came in, whether unhealthy attachments to each other, unresolved emotions, unresolved traumas. And so when they're connecting, they're creating you, that energy is carried through the womb of your mother from whatever months, to that fullness, and or even before that, because even with again, your mother and father, depending on what they went through and what their mother and father put them through, energetically speaking, you're talking about, again, y'all don't know the depths of how trauma bondings could have created your mother and father and then created you. And so now you're left with these unresolved emotions and unresolved traumas. So now you're out in the world creating more trauma bonds, because the things that I'm listing, I'm going to go into deeper. So now let's get on an aspect of incorporating the medical system. Now, when it says unhealthy attachment, intense emotions to abusers despite their abuse. Now, what I'm going to point out can be very uncomfortable and be very, like, almost challenging for a lot of women to accept. But I break things down. I'm just a messenger. It is what it is. The medical system, as y'all know, y'all don't believe that a lot of y'all have fucking trauma bonds to these corporations, to this society, to this land, to a lot of stuff. Let me dive into this. The medical system has abused women emotionally, mentally, physically for years. And I've spoken on this, what my mother went through from doctors when I was delivered. There are women who have countless stories. There are women who went to their graves dealing with the abuse, the neglect, the abandonment, the criticism, the distrust, and the manipulation, also gaslighting, and them having to deal with a loss of self after experiencing such traumatic events in a hospital setting. Yes. You hear stories, and you can research this. This can get very graphic if you're not ready for this. There are stories out there where women have had their babies ripped from their womb. I came across a story where there was a woman in there, woman and a man, literally, they pulled the babies, unalive the child, like pull the babies, this part, off the entire body. And if you haven't known, or if you would like to research, darker women, in this country, due to a lot of mistreatment, due to a lot of, again, manipulation, no sense of empowerment when it comes to them being led to believe and know that before medical and all this shit was introduced, that they can naturally have a child holistically, painless, from the support of a midwife. Not in a hospital setting, but in a natural setting, water births and so forth. They're not introduced to this. So what you have is an addiction to the cycle of abusers that their mother and grandmothers and great-grandmothers that were introduced, that they were forced into, manipulated into over years, to go into pretty much a laboratory, because that's what it is. You're studying on women. You're pretty much doing all these things in ways to manipulate them, to cause trauma, and to, even when you see a lot of these elders, they know nothing else but the medical system. So they don't even realize they created an unconscious behavior pattern to be dependent on, in a trauma bond, an unhealthy I'm gonna say unhealthy connection, but a trauma bond through these said corporations and systems. So let me continue. This you can naturally see, and I've seen this play out through darker women, especially in communities where they don't have the said resources. They don't have the natural herbs and stuff that they've gotten away from their ancestors used to tell them to use and so forth. There's an intense emotional independency and attachment to the medical system. And I'm going to break this down on all levels. This is who I am, bro. This is what it is, because this is about liberation. And especially for my mother's women who are going through tremendous purging right now. This is balance being restored. This is divine justice that's being brought to you all, because it's supposed to be uncomfortable. So again, I've seen in the demographics where I've had grandmothers or certain people who were immediately, due to their subconscious fears and their fear rooted in probably most likely dying or transitioning, and they automatically cling or have this attachment to the medical system because to fix their problem. Now, it's interesting that I say that, because there are other things when it comes to trauma bonds. And what I'm getting into next is that some of us aren't aware that we have created unconsciously, through subconscious programming of what our mothers and fathers have experienced, trauma bonds created since childhood into adulthood, unconsciously. That's why a lot of behavior patterns, there's a lot of scarcity and fear around. They're so dependent on corporations and systems in place that never, there's nothing in place that gives y'all a sense of peace. And nothing that gives you solutions to your own said problems in a holistic way, in a balanced way. So, that being said, a lot of these traumas, bondings with your mother and father, your great-grandmother and so forth, and these things have been passed generationally, yo. And you unconsciously have developed these patterns to where you're not even aware of what you're doing. You'll sitting there, we went from natural remedies and depending on the land to depending on pills and other stuff that, again, are temporary, that do more harm to the body than it does good. And you're going to see more exposure, as I've already said it, because this is how things will be balanced. Balance is being restored. This is divine retribution. So here are other things listed with trauma bonding. And I gotta. It's something else I wanted to read about. Well, I can actually tie this into all of this. People don't realize, like, when you look at a lot of these systems in place, when I say they prey on your childhood woundings, it's more so like you're not even recognizing the abuser. And what I mean by that is like abusing the power that, almost like someone is in power giving the authority and they're abusing it. And they're doing it maliciously for selfish gain. And this is what came to me when I was like getting this clarity. Trauma bonding, what a lot of our women, I always talk to my mothers, especially the matriarchal, because a lot of this, as you are beginning to face these unresolved traumas, emotions, and so forth, you realize how much you have lost a sense of self to regain a sense of authority within yourself, to be restored and regain that sense of empowerment within yourself, or power within yourself, your intuition that you've been neglecting, whatever relationship, partnership, business, career, all of that, because it all reflects an energy. It all holds an energy. So I had, this was coming to me, how women especially, because y'all the glue, and y'all gonna realize, like, as y'all come into your power, everything that these systems in place that use to prey on your woundings, most importantly, because mostly in the world are women and daughters, little girls, and so that's what's mainly targeted first. Trauma bonding with, y'all have been trauma bonding with a failing, collapsing system that's falling within on itself, whom has gained their false identity and beliefs from trauma bonding, energy harvesting people proudly supporting colorism, pain, and suffering in the name of love, truth, and integrity. And it doesn't matter what creed or color. The depths of this is showing you. What does that mean to you when I read that? You know within yourself, if you are the glue that is keeping this shit and keeping all this stuff afloat in a dysfunctional way, who has to be the ones to let it go, energetically speaking? Because a lot of you don't even realize how much your great-grandmothers, and a lot of them, mothers, great-grandmothers, when you look at mama, and when you look at her suffering in silence, she don't even realize that she has an unconscious trauma bond with these systems that are in place that have kept her in a stagnation, that has kept her in a place of unfulfillment, keeps her and have kept her and her lineage in a place where she can never really feel like herself, be herself. When you look at the school systems, when you look at all the systems in place, monetary and so forth, when who gets this resource, who gets access to this, who lives here, who lives there, and so forth. That shit is trauma bonding. Let me read on all levels, because it starts with you, and then you're talking about, ask yourself, through my traumatic experiences, am I unhealthy for me? Am I really healthy for me? And if I'm not, obviously, I'm living out something traumatically that I'm unconscious of. Because you were never taught this. You were never shown this. So you've been trauma bonding with systems in place. Let me get to this. Where's it at? Trauma bond says hero complex, savior, fix, save, and validate my existence. Are y'all ready for this shit? This shit is so deep. I'm just a messenger. Now, when I look at trauma bonding and it talks about these are attributes or whatever. Hero. Now, who we know to be the hero, especially when you look at the origins, and I'm looking at things scientifically, the origins of this country are people who are melanated, who are darker. Now, when I look at what, from my experience, darker women have experienced most out of anyone, and it's not to say there aren't other women who haven't experienced pain or who hasn't experienced something similarly. When I look at demographically speaking in the totality of everything, the darker woman has been in a position where she has been a hero to everybody but her fucking self. She has been a hero to everybody. This is why I tell y'all, when I say y'all are the glue, you also are the glue. It's almost like the unhealthy attachment that you have to these systems, to this country, and to so things that you don't even realize that has been keeping this afloat. It's because of you. A lot of you aren't even aware that a lot of you are, when it comes to certain things where you're seeing happening economically, it's because you've been programmed so deeply to be against what natural order is trying to restore. In the ethers, as above, so below, as within, so without. It's very challenging for women that are darker in certain demographics that have experienced so much shit here in this country and everywhere else to honestly believe that someone's coming to save her. It's that deep. Because when you look at trauma bonds, and when you look at how they have trauma bonding with the systems that literally keep their men from being in the home. So they've given this false identity to women to believe that we can fix it with food stamps. We can fix it with housing. We can fix it with this. But it's almost like the systems in place have gave this false identity or this illusion of a savior mentality. Even the same with religion. I'll go there. It is what it is. Just to validate your existence as a woman. And that goes for all women of creeds and cultures. Look at yourself and realize what has been given to you to validate your existence. Who are you as women before the world gave you religion? Who are you as women before the monetary system or certain things were in place? I'm saying this so you can question and realize, like, who am I outside of what the systems has given you to be a mother, to have a baby, to love yourself, to be in a relationship? Let's go on. When I look at trauma bonds, it says chaotic, unpredictable roller coasters of emotions. Meaning that when you look at the systems in place, it has created nothing but fucking chaos with women. Nothing stable. Very unpredictable. One thing this, one thing that, and it's literally have been put into place just for y'all to never get a sense of safety within yourself. Never finding a solution. And this is why, again, it's not an attack on women at all. It's to show the reason you're unstable emotionally and you have all these insecurities. These are just my notes. And you have no self-awareness and you are impulsive. It's because, love, you're talking about unresolved traumas and emotions from a system that has been in place to purposely keep women, of course, that are darker in a position where they do not thrive and see their value. but also to give off to illusion of women who are lighter that they actually have a superior complex or this superiority over women who have been the glue for them as well. So you're against each other, and in reality, you all just trauma bonding from both a said system to keep you away from each other, to keep you at odds, no matter your skin color. I'm talking about on a deeper level. So when we're talking about relationships, these are my notes, relationships mirroring, this also is talking about trauma bonding. Relationships mirroring a pattern of childhood experience. How many of us have been in relationships where you realize that once you start to become aware of your traumatic experience or childhood experiences, that you realize you've been trauma bonding with your spouse, even in career settings where you don't have a sense of power, where you don't even feel a sense how to set boundaries, even in school systems, wherever. A lot of that stuff still reflects how your childhood woundings have been preyed upon. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care what status you have in the world. This is divine retribution. Your relationships with whatever you're in is reflecting your childhood experience. How so? Let me give you a prime example, because I can call my own shit out. When I was modeling, I didn't know the depths of, like, I'm sitting here confidently as I perceived it to be. Yes, I'm attractive physically. But once I start to realize and reflect the trauma bonding that I had with women, because it was more superficial and surface, like, oh, you're beautiful, you this and that. But then I didn't realize how it was mirroring back to me at that time that I was trauma bonding, looking for acceptance, looking for a woman to fix me, looking for a savior unconsciously from a mother wound that literally created the first trauma bond that I ever had. Because as it says, a sense of, another thing with trauma bond, I betrayed and sacrificed myself and all of my needs to receive love. Now, when you look at yourself, how many of you have sacrificed and betrayed yourself for external validation, love, or seeking outside of yourself? And it is what it is. I say this, I use this also in the aspect of religion. Every day, this is my perspective, I feel people betray themselves. They give so much of themselves to external things rather than literally asking themselves, what about my needs? What about, how am I showing up for myself? How am I loving myself? Because whatever character has been given through me through religion doesn't show me that, isn't here presently to give me that. So that manipulation, even through that certain system, in a way. Because I've always proudly said that when it comes to how women have been manipulated through religion, it ain't just the colorism aspect of what that man looks like. It's also through the aspect of them needing, when you see the trauma bond in that shit, where here's a hero, I'm gonna give you a character to come save you from, you know, all the things that you can knowingly give yourself. If I can affirm myself, how is that no difference than me praying for myself or speaking over myself? If I can, you know, why do I need something to validate my existence? If I am breathing, if I can hear a voice, or if I have my intuition, if I can listen, if I have my own thoughts, if I have all these things that tell me that paradise is within, that everything begins with me first, then I see exactly why. When I look at, again, trauma bonding, where it has kept our women in a place of betraying everything, all of their needs just to receive love. When you look at all the systems, it literally has programmed our women and mothers, daughters, to literally give up some of the most valued vital parts of themselves, especially sensually, sexually, mentally, intimately, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Then now they take this and go into their adulthood, and they realize like they were never taught trauma bonds. They didn't even realize like a lot of when they gave up themselves, or when they actually were taught by people, other people's belief systems, how it kept them in a control aspect rather than a liberating aspect of freedom. Because I'm going to get into the healthy parts, the authentic parts of what love actually is. So it also mentioned how trauma bond says, you complete me. Now we know this to be a thing where we hear this a lot when it comes to feeling like this person completes me. You're my other half. Now where have we heard that narrative from? Now for one, let me remind you, you as women, daughters, whomever you are as an individual, you are your own individual first. You have your own emotions. You have your own thoughts. You have your own dreams. You have your own everything. Now, when you look at how a lot of stuff, how we have unconsciously had these programmings of believing like, well, I cannot do anything outside. I can't do really something unless I do this first for someone else. And we don't even realize how we have developed these trauma bonds, these unhealthy patterns of doing everything for others rather than ourselves. Literally balancing. I'm not saying you're not supposed to do for others, but balancing. And there's nothing that has been in place that literally gives women an outlet to liberate and feel a sense of freedom, to even be their authentic self. So now that these systems and certain things are collapsing, a lot of you are going to be aware how much you realize that not only have you developed an unhealthy trauma bond with yourself, but you can reflect. And this is why I tell you, give grace to yourself through these processes. You don't have to be angry. It's okay to be angry. Let me rephrase that. You can be angry. You can have emotions, because a lot of things will come up, the frustrations, because of what was allowed. And then even in your innocent state as a child, a lot of you that were vulnerable and you had no one there to protect you. So that's another thing, how we develop these unconscious, through our subconscious programming, well, unconscious patterns of what we've been doing, but been subconsciously programmed in childhood to naturally have these trauma bonds. Through your school systems, through all of this stuff that never gives you a healthy outlet to find a state of mental peace, a clarity, a sense of security. So, let me see. What else did I want to get on? Okay, so now I'm gonna get into the healthy aspect, and I know I'm gonna make another part to this, but the authentic bonding refers to learn, see, and hold space for all of me. Woo! I'm gonna ask this question for a lot of you, no matter where you are, man, woman, look, listen. Authentic bonding, healthy bonding. There's nothing in place that has been in place in this world that has given us any system where we have a safe place to really not just be ourselves, but our authentic self. And I mean bonding through whatever your status is, whatever your career is, whatever. Can you really be yourself? And with that, it says to learn, see, and hold space for all of me. Now ask yourself, when's the last time you've been in a career or place, relationship, where not only that person sees all of you, but they can learn and see you as you are? Now let's go back to your childhood. Let's go back to places where, because I like to get a polarity. You know your mother has never held a space for you, or a place for you, space for you, for all of you. I mean all versions of you. Including all versions, past, present, and future. Holding the space for all of you. All of who you are. And now diving into the trauma bond aspect of that. How many of you got relationships where you want to try to build something healthy, a healthy connection with your mother, but we know people to cling and have this attachment, intense attachment to whether religion, money, a lot of things, to where it literally blocks them from really having the authentic bonding connection. I'm not telling people, judging people whatever religion to believe in. I have people who respectfully, due to their perspective, respectfully, we don't have an issue. That's your perspective. I'm at peace, you at peace. An authentic bond is that I can still have peace within myself, mental peace. Have my belief system intact to where I don't have an issue with what you believe in. What you won't do is what I won't allow, due to my healthy boundaries, is allow you to try to forcefully control me through said religious beliefs or anything like that. Now, when I look at what has been in place, I'm pointing out and exposing things as such. Things that have manipulated and tried to fix people's problems. This savior complex of, in a traumatic way, to where it's not leading them to an authentic version of themselves, where they can be themselves, where they're not judged. Because if it's mentioning that the authentic bonding is to learn and see this person or people as they are and hold the space for all of them. When you look at a country or a place, fucking leaders or nothing has held a space for all of me to be me. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. When you look at these structures, universities, churches, all of these things around the world, there is nothing in place that has held a space for humanity, for darker people, especially darker men and women, and people of different creeds and colors, cultures. But when I'm talking about this country, when you're talking about expecting people who have been trauma bonding, you're asking people to trauma bond. We have trauma bond through connections, through school systems, through religion, through everything. You're asking people to come together and to believe in this one person and do this. And it's nothing authentic about it. Nothing. Because there are people who know the truth of how a lot of stuff was sent to control and manipulate the powers that used to be. So now that all these things are being exposed, why would I sit here and believe that this church that is predominantly Caucasian or whatever it is, whatever their nationality, who proclaims and who knows their so-called history and nationality, when they trauma bond with a system and proclaim to be white on paper, which is an adjective, but they built these structures in place knowingly to keep people out that are darker, and literally you're asking me to build an authentic connection when they have literally, in coming into what they built, literally through trauma bonds, literally giving these pastors, these people in place, literally giving this story to people that are darker. And people that are darker, giving this narrative to people to fix, to save, to validate their existence as a human being. Rather than holding, in an authentic aspect, holding a space for all of them. And what I mean all of me, I mean all that comes with me. I mean the parts of me emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. Not in this ego-driven aspect of you putting me in the box of just said religion, then if I don't believe and go, because there's so many of them, Baptist, Catholic, all this other shit, and you're asking me to be this and just this, what's authentic about that? And let's go back to a country and environments who have preyed on the wounds of our women for eons, for years, for hundreds of years. There's nothing authentic about that, because you're not acknowledging or have held, especially women, especially, I'm gonna speak to my darker women first that are in these demographics. They have not, no systems in place, leaders or whatever they call themselves, have not held a space for you, all of you. I mean, all of you within yourself. The little girl that has went through things traumatically, that needs therapy, that grew into her teenage age, you know, the parts of you, the versions of you that the Most High, the Creator, still loves, that is desiring of you to see within yourself, because these systems or these things externally are never going to fix it. There was nothing never outside of you that was meant to save you. So again, we're talking about systems that have been in place who have built these things that are collapsing within on themselves. Not only are they're inauthentic, but they're literally collapsing in on itself because they've built this false identity through trauma bonding with people that are darker. How so? Look at your systems that are in place. And literally, it ain't just through people that are dark. It's other people too that I know in certain demographics. Literally trauma bonding systems. Getting you to sacrifice everything outside of you to receive love. Your music industries. All of that stuff that isn't a sense of empowerment to really focus on you to look at yourself. I put that right there to the music, etc. The saying, the trauma bond of I portray or sacrifice myself and all of my needs to receive love. Y'all don't see how, even with certain things with the monetary system, a lot of things where y'all don't even realize how much of your traumas that you are unaware of, that you unconsciously reenact these behavior patterns that lead to self-sacrificing, self-sabotaging behaviors. These trauma bonds that have been lingering, these unresolved traumas, these unresolved emotions, for you to cling to something, to feel a sense of self-identity, to feel a sense of fulfillment, to feel a sense of love, to feel a sense of truth. I'm not asking people to accept this shit, because it's supposed to be uncomfortable. I could be called everything but the child of the Most High. It's not going to change the message. So, you show me where. Because when I look at a lot of these places, and when I look at a country in the last couple hundred years of places where they literally built and then pretend, when you look at structural racism in these corporations and business, you're asking us, people that are darker, to trauma bond with people, because that's all that's been created. Knowing that these people deep within themselves have a hatred for themselves. Knowing that the people that you don't see, the powers that used to be, the powers that were trying to put in place and implement things so you don't have a sense of self, so you don't become aware of who you are. So you don't learn to love those parts of yourself. Those fucking days are over with. Divine retribution is here. Y'all don't even see how the trauma bonding it is. That there is nothing. And I know it's painful, and I know it's like very distraught for a lot of people, because they're like, okay, well, what else do we do? What else do we do? You know what to do. The thing is, it's already happening. y'all, a lot of y'all, especially these elders who aren't even realizing, like, a lot of them gave birth to y'all in trauma bonding fucking situations. When you look at the fact that a lot of y'all fathers are people who were in military and knowing what they did, and literally the shirts and what they do, it literally talks about how they sacrifice themselves for a badge, for whatever it is, to feel a sense, like the ego around all of that, the pride around that. Where's the integrity in that? Does that mean all people? No, because I know people who are in said things to try to get a sense of self, or try to, some people went into things unconsciously not even knowing what they got into. That's a different story. But when I'm talking about energetically speaking, when you're talking about the foundations, the root of what you see collapsing, you're literally talking about the ego, the pride, the wounded ego, the dysfunction, and all of that to keep people from living amongst each other. The trauma bonding that I realized, like, the having to cut ties with the trauma bonding, how we're literally are asked to depend on a system that never gives us a solution, never gives us a sense of peace. Look at what's going on. There's nothing in place that gives us a sense of safety, of security. Your leaders, your whomever it is, there's nothing in place. And that's on all levels, communities, so forth. It's all been exposed. They don't hold a space for our mothers, daughters, especially. This is not excluding our sons. I speak to the matriarchal because what we're rebuilding, what is being reestablished, happens through you. Because you are the first teachers. And when you reflect on how a lot of you are in corporations and business where you literally have created trauma bonds unconsciously, or some of you are aware, with said systems that was never meant for you to progress in ways where you truly thrive, where you don't have to break your fucking backs to actually beg. You have to beg. You have had to beg. And the beauty of it is that a lot of you are coming into this liberation. And there will be others that don't look like you that will also come into this deep awareness as well. For one, it also mentions safe and consistent. Now, the reason why all of this is coming to a head is because, let's be honest, in this past couple 100 years, a lot of you, whether your generation, whether you're here or not, there's been consistent fucking chaos. There's been consistent, unpredictable, unpredictability, the unhealthy part of it, the roller coasters of emotions, of this, the false sense of safety, always at war. This is that distorted masculine that has been within humanity, men and women, and also in the country. Distorted masculinity. Because there's nothing that has really gave us a sense of safety, security, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically on all levels. Your school systems, your careers, the monetary system, everything literally is reflecting the distortion. So things can be balanced. It also mentioned relationships based on freedom and liberation, accountability, and mental peace. All these systems, when you look at that, and I'm talking about beginning with yourself, do you have a healthy relationship with liberation and freedom with you? How does that look? Do you have a healthy relationship with accountability? And we know, sisters, a lot of us, we know accountability is not number one on our list. And mental peace. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because when I look at how the mental illness has thrived, is because a lot of people don't realize this shit has been through trauma bonding. We're talking about, we've seen a consistent unhealthy patterns or dysfunctional patterns of our mothers and fathers, of a country of mental, who has created so much mental distortion and ignorance and illness. And we have passed this through trauma, through our kids and so forth. And so now it's like we're finally getting a sense of mental peace. Where, you tell me where in this world, I don't care what career, what you're doing, that gives you mental peace, that forces you to take accountability for yourself. Where in the school system that it shows our kids to prioritize accountability for their emotions, for their well-being, for who they are? Where? Other than what they're being given to be fucking robotic. But it's not teaching them nothing about emotional intelligence, to be accountable for them first, to be self-sufficient. Again, trauma bonding with systems, our mothers first, that have been given things to where there's nothing to make them be accountable for their own life, for their own thoughts, for their own emotions and so forth, in a healthy way, in an authentic way. There's nothing that has been there. How the fuck you expect us to heal? How you expect our mothers to heal? Because they hide it very well. All women, you hide it very well behind your religion, behind your money, your relationships, your partnerships, your husband, your kids. You hide it well. You hide it well. Bravo. You hide it well. Why keep hiding it? Because a little girl, the inner child in you, doesn't want to hide it anymore. Because you're still trauma bonding. You're still creating, literally trying to be a savior and fix your child's everything when they're here to learn. When you're a guide for them, just as a guide, they're being a guide for you. They're literally mirroring back to you your childhood experiences. When they do something that looks familiar to you, they're literally mirroring back. But it's you that haven't been giving space to really have to be all of you. There's nothing that has been giving y'all the opportunity to be all of you, to show up for all of you. Gosh, there's nothing that has given our mothers and daughters, triggering to our sons and fathers, for them to show up for all of them. We haven't had grandmothers and fathers. When you look at the dynamics and the demographics of darker people that are in said rural areas, or whatever you want to call it, our mothers don't have time and the energy to be there for all of them, because how systematically, through traumatic experiences, through the trauma bonding of this fucking country that hasn't given them anything to value and see themselves. So when you're forcing a lot of their fathers out of the home into the workspace, again, where they don't realize that they won't have time to see all of them and to acknowledge their emotions, and their emotions are valid. And guess what that does? That removes the importance of emotional security, the emotional for them to be emotionally balanced, because they're working without awareness of self. They're constantly lost. They're losing themselves. Not to mention trying to fight with whatever they have dealt with. They're in the child, trying to live it out through whatever career. So they trauma bond unconsciously with people. Power struggles. False sense of self. Then they go right back home and they got to deal with a woman. And it's not attacking women, but they have to deal with a woman who has also had time to see all of her. So neither of them knows what it is in an authentic bond to hold a space for not only all of themselves, but for each other. How am I going to hold a space for you, baby, if I haven't held a space for what I've experienced in the past versions of myself, in this present moment? I'm trying to hold a space for me in the present. I'm trying to keep it all together. I'm trying to maintain these bills and protect you and do what they said a man is supposed to be, which is bullshit. All of these systems ain't doing nothing but creating more trauma bonds for y'all, because y'all don't even realize that y'all are unconsciously in trauma bonds, because you're trying to fix not only them, but you've been taught and programmed to believe that you can fix each other, that you can save each other. Let me come in and save her. I've been given all this, I got money now. Let me come in and save her. Let me come in this hero and swoop in like Superman. And don't realize, like, how I see that Superman complex thing. It makes sense now why, was it Lois Lane or whatever the character was? how she really balanced him. Because while he was out here trying to save everybody from this shit, it was a balance for her to come in. That's just my analogy from it. To remind him, like, you're human, bruh. You're still you. I feel like from me channeling that, it's like the woman is there to remind us the safe place, to see all of us, because she naturally reflects back the emotional resonance. She naturally reflects back that emotional part of us that we gathered from our mother first. And if that parts of us is through a trauma bond or unhealthy, she literally, through our connections with women, we literally mirror that back. Through relationships, mirroring back our childhood experience. So when you see the instability, when you see the unhealthiness and all of this stuff, it's because a lot of shit, when the man was displaced from the family, when the mother was displaced and put in a position where she cannot acknowledge her emotions, she's not able to see all of her and accept all of her, then she begins to project that onto everybody. And that begins to create foundations, cities, communities, villages, whatever the fuck you want to call it, systems in place that reflect that same trauma bond. A distorted feminine energy and principle that gives birth to a distorted masculine energy. And I'm talking about energetically from man and woman that hold both feminine and masculine energy. And so you see it play out into the world. So the very thing that y'all are desperately trying to say, with some of you will, externally, that you're clinging to, literally reflects a distortion. It's not balanced. Because when you look at our women, they are displaced. They are finally resting. And it's scary for a lot of you, because a lot of you are facing, y'all don't even realize this so-called shit that's happening with these systems are literally catapulting in for things to be reestablished in a more harmonious, peaceful, honest, authentic way. What would you rather have? Continuous trauma bonding, which we all have experienced in humanity. When you look at the fact of authentic bonding, the opposite of that is relationships, meaning that when you have a ship or you have relations, whether through trading, countries, people, home, children, based on foundations of liberation and freedom, accountability, and mental peace. When mama not at peace, nothing's at peace. So when you see this country, when you see environments, these natural disasters, it's because the feminine principle of this world, that it reflects this, earthly experience. Listen, Mother Earth, Daughter Earth, whatever you want to call it, it is a feminine energy. It's always ever changing. So when you try to come in, and when you have this patriarchal that has been so distorted because the matriarchal has been displaced and has given birth to what you see playing out through these certain characters in place right now, on this world stage, they're just literally mirroring back everything what we have been fucking enabling as women and as men. There you go. There's your accountability. And what's the other healthy part of this authentic bonding? Meeting my own needs first. How many of us know that? And when I don't mean, I know there's very few of us, but how many of us as mothers, women, men, how many of you know your mothers to have knowing what it is to meet her needs first? You don't know. Because there ain't nothing that been in place that has literally given her a place or position to meet her own needs. Because the distortion in the program will really have women to believe that your needs don't matter. Your emotions don't matter. Your well-being, mentally, emotionally, physically, don't matter. I'm literally talking to women, like, literally seeing the distortion in the displacement. Where, and it don't matter creeds and color, because it was a fairer skinned woman, and I always see her in the store. I'm seeing her like, like, dang girl, you be in here a lot. Yeah, I've been in here since, I love her accent. I love it. I love beautiful. I just love people. Well, I've been in here since 8 this morning all the way till the evening. I'm like, what? I'm like, dang. Then she told me how she had a daughter, and I was like, okay, what's going on? And she was telling me how her daughter wouldn't feel good and all this other stuff that's going on. Do y'all not realize this shit, bro? That you mothers, if you not realize, like, y'all don't realize how spiritually, energetically that we are, like, a lot of shit is connected. Like, you as women, your well-being is connected to your children's well-being. This is something that Divine was, like, literally, like, instilling in me. Why you think the distortion from the matriarchal has breeded these men that are so distorted that they want to have a false sense of control over women with their money? It's because y'all don't realize y'all gave birth to that. Y'all don't want to take accountability with that. Y'all have realized, like, when she was telling me, like, yeah, I said, what's going on? She's like, my effing husband. I was like, okay. She's like, my husband, you know, just sits on the couch all day and don't really do much. Because I asked about her baby last time I talked to her. She said the baby wasn't doing too well. Like, you know, just going through some things, you know, what they call under the weather. And I'm telling her, like, you know, wish her well, you know, giving her some things, like try to give her some spring water or some things that I recommend her in a holistic way. And, you know, a lot of our mothers out here aren't getting checked up on. Then you got to think about even the systems in place where there's so much unhealthy shit that we don't even realize. Like, we literally put off our needs first, or our mothers have put away, and the program is so deep for them to put away so much of their needs and prioritize themselves that they actually believe that they don't have to show up for themselves. Y'all actually believe that it's not. I know it's challenging. It's very challenging because it's like, it's the fear of the unknown. And y'all don't realize, like, feminine energy is the unknown. It's the knowingness in the unknowingness. It's the knowing that you're secure, which y'all have been so disconnected from your intuition, which again, y'all are the glue to everything. So y'all knowing, this is the thing, y'all knowingly know how to be in leader, whether you want to call it leadership, it just looks differently from a different perspective. Y'all knowingly know how to lead in ways where men don't know how to do things. You know what I'm saying? If you master more of the emotion, you know how to lead in emotion. It's just due to the distortion of everything, or a lot of things that have been displaced. You've been displaced. You've been put out here. You've been doing more. And I'm going to go back to the story connecting to this, is that you lost yourself. A lot of you have lost who you are. And with that, this is why I speak about ancestral things or generational curse breaking, is because you are here to break that generational chain of being in such a distorted way that has kept your lineage from prospering, from progressing, from being in a place of a sense of security within, from honoring your gift, from being in an authentic place. A lot of you don't even realize how much of years that you have been trauma bonding with yourself. When you have an unhealthy connection with yourself or a bond with yourself, that literally mirrors back to everything else around you. This country reflects the matriarchal just as well as it reflects the patriarchal. Women, this country reflects you too. Mothers, this country reflects you too. This world reflects you too. You are just as accountable as the fathers. And also, going back to the story, I was telling the sister, you know, telling her, she was like, yeah, my husband, he doesn't work. He don't want to do nothing. He don't want to watch her. And I was sitting there like, I just breathed in. I was like, man. And you know when you feeling something, I'm like, should I just mind my business? I said, truthfully, you already know what to do. And this is why I tell women, y'all know, y'all don't realize how much y'all been disconnected from your intuition, to where you want to do something and you will literally not do it to make others happy. Do you see how dysfunctional that is? You will literally go against that nudge that intuition, which is your higher source, your higher self, or something that no man, physical man, can explain or put into words. Because we also have it, because we were given it from y'all. That's what the intuition, or that part of ourselves that is connected to that most high, that connection. So when I was like, you know what to do. And I honestly just gave it a rundown. I gave it a rundown like, look, I see this going on. I talk about this on my YouTube and so forth. But you are allowing that. And, the truth is, it's what we truly allow and what we've allowed. What our mothers have allowed, what we've seen demonstrated when we were a child, trauma bonding. Literally, it's like taking care of another child in a way. And I'm telling you from experience of shit that I went through with women. Because a lot of men aren't self-aware and aren't secure within themselves to realize, like, you are your own individual. We think it's not so much that, the needingness has a lot to do with, do you know you need you more to be more self-sufficient and secure? No one completes you. So I've seen this theme right now in these relationship dynamics where when you see, again, marriages, a lot of these marriages had a lot to do with trauma bonds, had a lot to do with peer pressure, had a lot to do with pressure around family, had a lot to do with even certain religious constructs or people thinking like, I have to do it this way. When I tell you, a lot of you are going to realize how unhealthy you have been to yourself, how much you haven't been honest with yourself, authentic with yourself, how you haven't learned you more and need to see more of you more, the authentic bonding, and have even hold a space for all of you, meaning all of yourself, before you actually think that someone comes along and completes you, for you to see and learn you. It's not to say you don't mirror and learn each other. How is it that man knows you better than you? That's not even possible. Know thyself. So a lot of you, again, are in and have been in connections to where, or in your marriages and partnerships, where you're going to come to this self-awareness, that you realize that not only did your father didn't hold space for you, all of you, your mother didn't hold space for you. So a lot of your mothers and fathers got together where, again, they didn't hold space for all of themselves, meaning themselves first, have a healthy relationship with themselves first, and they didn't even know how to have a healthy relationship with each other or hold space for all of them, all of the different versions. Because when you look at the feminine principles, it's ever changing. To know a woman or to know me is to love me, meaning that it's what comes with me. I'm not saying like, and that's a process, because you can meet someone through these traumas and realize they have unresolved emotions and traumas. So a lot of us, again, unconsciously have been in these dynamics where we had to go through it karmically. We had to learn these lessons just to come to this self-realization like, oh, wow, I need to hold space for that past version of me, or for that little boy and little girl where I realized that I abandoned, not through my own beliefs, but the beliefs of my mom and dad. Their beliefs. Because a lot of them abandoned themselves. They abandoned their happiness. They left their happiness on the shelf when they jumped into them fucking marriages. When they jumped into certain careers and certain things where they begin to portray self. When they begin to sacrifice themselves and everything to receive love from the company, to receive love from that partner, to receive love from their children. This is what I do. This is what I do. So again, how many of y'all have had a belief system where you know to prioritize your needs first? How are you showing up, and what do your needs look like? So when she told me that, I said, you know what to do. I said, it may be scary and uncomfortable because a lot of us have kids, or you through these trauma bonds, you have had kids. That doesn't mean that things cannot be therapeutically worked out with yourself and other people. It's the importance of you recognizing when you put your needs first and not betraying self no longer portraying self, how that looks. And then to build something healthy with you, to realize the unhealthiness in the other person, to realize why you have to move forward, to realize why a lot of you have to stand firm in who you are as mothers, daughters, and so forth. Because these systems, your pastors, your leaders are not going to give you this shit. They're not going to tell you that. Because a lot of them are in position where their wounded ego and their pride don't want to see you rise into your power. They don't want to see you stand up for yourself. They don't want to see you take back your power as women and rebuild a fucking matriarchal system that reflects authentic bonding. Come on now. Come on now. Because a lot of these things do not hold space for all of you as a woman. The little girl in you. All the parts of you. And the part and what you're blossoming to. Because when that control aspect comes into that, where the trauma bond on all levels, this one says, enable behaviors that is harmful, deceitful, and abusive to receive love. Partners attempts to mold and control each other. Boy, when I look at religion, when I look at a lot of stuff people go through, it's like they're trying to mold this person into something, and that person don't have a sense of awareness or confidence to even realize, like, that's not even who you want to be. That's not even who you were called to be. You over here accepting this person's vices, laying down with the enemy, and you're becoming something energetically that you're not. You don't even care to be, because at the depths of your core, as a being, as a woman especially, that's not who you are. That's not who you are, but you had to go through it. So that's why you see a lot of things that's going to be exposed like that. So you will see a lot of gaslighting where it says trauma bonding can look like I need you, or an addiction to you. And what else it say? Yeah. So in a deceitful and manipulative way. And once you start doing the healing, especially our women, like you start to realize as you come into depth with that, you will be able to realize the spirit or energy that you're fighting off or away and getting through. You'll easily see it mirror back in that partner or person. You'll easily see it mirror back. You'll actually be able to see the spiritual vices in warfare. You'll actually be able to see what you, even that person or whatever, you individual and that person, their bloodline has been trying to, what vices and stuff comes with them. Y'all don't even know that shit, that it's that deep. A lot of you are fighting with vices and things internally that person isn't ready. That person in that relationship or partnership or marriage isn't ready to change. And here you are given the strength and liberation to fight these things and get through it individually, authentically. Because you're going through things where you can't carry the load. And when I was talking to that girl, I was like, I can see it. She's tired. There's nothing in place where it gives, again, a mental peace or a place where women can actually rest. Rest. To sit and acknowledge their emotion. Y'all literally are trauma bonding with these fucking corporations and businesses. And once I tell y'all the glue. And once y'all realize, like, you no longer want to be the glue for this shit, you'll be surprised. You'll be like, you'll sit back. I'm not encouraging alcohol, but some of y'all do. That's y'all shit. Like, some people do what they do. Everybody ain't gonna leave this world eating grass or being a vegan or whatever. I call it like it is. Some of y'all gonna sip y'all wine, smoke y'all cigar, whatever it is. Be able to sit back and realize you want this. Y'all call it the soft era, but in actuality, in order to get to your more balance, your more femininity, you have to also see the distorted part of you, the distorted femininity, to be able to assert yourself in a healthy masculinity. Or let me say this, you have to see the trauma bonding in the feminine aspect of you, with yourself, with people around you, before you can actually build an authentic bonding with yourself, a partnership with yourself, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, to show up physically. You have to meet your needs where your needs were not met. Because all this shit you see in the relationship and all this stuff they're talking about, well, he need to have this, he need to have that, he need to have $100,000, he need to have he need to have all this. Y'all lost yourself, bro. Y'all don't even realize this. I love y'all because y'all don't even realize, like, y'all have lost the fact of, like, it's y'all are the glue. And I'm not saying y'all the prize, because the illusion is separation. It's the y'all lost yourself in this external shit. Because y'all have trauma bonded with so much things that doesn't reflect authenticity, value, substance. Peace is more valuable than whatever man can come along. He can come along with $1 trillion and his ass is mentally ill or mentally going through something, having all these vices, and then all of a sudden here you are, taking on that energy, taking on a load because you seen your mama do it. Because you see your mama trauma bond with me. Because you ain't never seen your mama be her authentic self. So here you are doing the same thing. You get in this career setting, you so independent. Ain't no, who really is independent? There's an interdependence. But who really is independent? Acting like y'all ain't never had no support along the way. No support? You did it all on your own. Your mama wasn't there. Your mama didn't be supportive for you getting here. Whoever it is. Another distortion. So the last thing on here, it talks about authentic bonding, is you enhance who I am. That's an authentic bond. How many of y'all been in something where you realize this person enhances you? They literally inspire you. Even through the versions of them where you have to give them grace or you give yourself grace, so you're like the compassion. Because, bro, when you see a lot of this stuff play out, man, these trauma bonds that we don't even realize we've been in, oh my, it's nothing authentic about it. I tell you what's authentic about it, the distorted way, the stupidity, the ignorance. Because here it is, y'all out here like really lost, like you lost. You lost yourself, your sense of self. You don't even know what it is to be guided by your intuition no more. Do you really know what it is? Because you knew as a child when your mama was stayed in that relationship too long. That was your intuition telling you that. You knew that. You knew. You would tell your mom. You know, a lot of us saw consistent trauma bonding. And then one of our most challenging things is the consistency of seeing it in the family dynamic, the corporations, the business, the trauma bonding with people that you see that are sexually abused, emotionally abused, sexually harassed, and so forth. And we literally, because of our circumstances, are called to trauma bond with these people, with that so-called boss, with that so-called politician, with that so-called people in areas who are in authoritative position who actually think that karma is going to skip over them. No. Because that's not integrity. Knowing that these people have did that. So, you know, when I was telling that girl, I was like, look, you know what to do. And you know what you need to do for you. Because you're staying there. You're choosing that. And I know it's so, again, we have seen so much trauma bonding where we see our mothers and fathers, especially our mothers, stay in stuff because of kids. And I'll be the first to say this too. A lot of men too. Y'all not exempt. We gotta allow ourselves to liberate ourselves from certain things that we know that does not reflect. I've been there. I've seen my mother go through it and still go through it. To where I had to really cut ties with trauma bonding with people, with family, with friends, where when you hear them, the first thing they got to talk about is something that's in the past that they actually celebrate. Y'all actually celebrate trauma unconsciously and think that shit is good. Y'all actually celebrate victory where people go to other countries and literally, y'all actually have parades and celebrate as if y'all know exactly what went on over there. Y'all actually trauma bond with holidays and actually celebrate shit in a traumatic sense and are unconscious, and some of you proudly do it. You're asking people to trauma bond continuously through systems that are not progressing. There's nothing, when it says you enhance who I am, you can look at that for yourself. You can look at that in your relationships, and you can look at it in the dynamics with other people, your careers and so forth. Is this enhancing who I am? Let's be honest with ourselves. And so, that's how I know I gotta finish up. I actually got it all in here. But I do got other stuff. Because another part of the authentic aspect is emotional vulnerability, open communication. Now, I always go back to the matriarchal because it reflects the patriarchal, which you see today. That meaning the men, the grandfathers, so forth, so forth. And there hasn't, the manipulation in itself with trauma bonding, again, I've talked about on previous videos where when it comes to emotional vulnerability, I always go to our mothers, because if y'all haven't had a safe place to be emotionally vulnerable, there's no systems in place for y'all to actually have to feel safe to be vulnerable, and it not be used against you or your kids, or to keep the man out of the house, or to keep social service here, to cut your food stamps, to cut different resources, to keep you from getting that support. Bro, do y'all not see the fucking trauma bond to the systems that y'all realize that are collapsing on themselves? Because it's a new age, it's a new world, it's a new way of being, a new collective conscience. Y'all don't even realize how the trauma bond to that. It's not to say that, the thing is, you have to go through it to recognize it. You have to go through it to be able. That's why it's raining now. You got to go through the storm to be able to see the rainbow, the sun at the end of it. So the reason I talk about this is like, where has there been open communication where you had to see people intentionally had to lie and manipulate the so-called systems because that's what they're built on? So you literally are turning into something that reflects something that doesn't reflect like authenticity or integrity or love or truth. So you have to see women and like literally lie purposely to protect themselves, their image, and their kids. And I don't blame them at all. It's just the fact that when you look at trauma bonding, where there isn't, it's literally you're partnering with people or these systems that are attempting to mold you and control you into something that doesn't reflect a sense of safety, mutual trust, because this, I'm talking from both, going from trauma bond to authentic love, mutual trust, words reflecting actions. And when you look at this country, this community, when you look at the distortion of the masculinity and so forth, when words don't reflect actions, this is where the emotional intelligence I talk to you about, like, as men who come into this awareness and realize, like, this is why I call it out. And I call it out systematically because I'm calling all women out, especially the ones who pretend and don't see, and the ones who do know what you're doing at the same time. When you're talking about not only not having mutual trust and an authentic love, like dynamic with a relationship with yourself first, and then having a mutual trust, when you look at the banking system, monetary system, all these systems in place, there is no mutual trust. Because you're asked to give all your information, you're asked to do all these things, but there's nothing mutual. There's nothing honest. There's nothing like a solid foundation that reflects authenticity, where they actually see you and hear you and actually care about your emotional, physical, mental well-being. This is the last one, because this video is almost 2 hours. Now, this is authentic love. It says it has clear boundaries, free of self-betrayals, values accountability. Now, when we look at our dynamics, come on now. Like, I know myself. I ain't seen that. I'm building that. I had to acknowledge that within myself. Like, finally having clear boundaries, standing on that. Freeing myself, free of self-betrayal. That means it's like not literally sacrificing, betraying myself, my morals, my principles, just to be loved by people, to be accepted by a business, a corporation, or or anything like that. Then the valuing accountability, meaning that, the authenticity of being honest with myself, taking accountability for my actions. When you look at this fucking country and the state it's in, and the people and the leadership that reflects this distorted love, bro, a distorted love, a trauma bond. This is what's keeping y'all in a place of not really liberating yourself. And so it keeps you from taking accountability for your own life instead of being dependent and being dependent on them to fix it. Rather, you learning how to take accountability for your actions. For you first. To learn how to be more self-sufficient. So you can continue that through your lineage and continue that legacy. So, listen, I know I went in on that, finishing up, because I keep going back to that story with old girl, but man, listen, I know many of mothers in that position, and I'm not blaming them. It's just, it's like for me to talk about this stuff, and it's like it's not that I'm asking of y'all, but it's like, okay, you can say all this, but what's gonna happen? What we need to do? And it's like, again, intuition. Sometimes you need to sit, relax, do something you never did before. Sit down. You ain't got to go out there. Rest. You want to go out there and do certain things? Sit down, relax, chill. Let it come to you for once. Let it come to you for once. Cut off what you need to cut off. Come back to this video as much as possible. Share it with people that you know that need it. Because things are going to change, and they're going to change swiftly. And a lot of people, it's not so much that some of y'all, it's a sense of, I know it's a sense of scarcity because some of y'all are unprepared. But truthfully, these times were prepared just for certain people to be sat down, and just for some people to rise up. It's all the part of divine. It's all divinely orchestrated, just to show you that the Most High, the Creator, God, whatever you want to call it, still sees you and loves you. Yes, she, heard, however y'all want to look at it, the Creator, Source has heard your prayers, or your what you had spoken out into the universe. And so with that, again, give yourself grace, because a lot of us grew up in generations where it's very difficult for us to accept the fact of, like, wow, my mom, how's she gonna give me a foundation? When you look at trauma bonds in the depths of it, how's she gonna give me this false illusion of a world that doesn't even exist? How's she gonna give me a foundation and prepare me for something which she probably did the best that she could, but at the same moment, some of them didn't even take accountability to realize, like, they were just as unprepared as we are in a way. But we are really more prepared when we become aware that things are shifting and they're going to continue to shift. Breathe. And know that it's okay to come home to yourself. It's okay to cry. It's okay to acknowledge. It's okay to purge. It's okay to rest. It's okay to cut people off. It's okay to leave people where they at. Because this new version and this part of you that's, the Most High is asking of you, everything cannot go. And, like I said, when you look at, like, what has literally given us like solutions, you'll recognize what trauma bonds really are. Like, is this really leading me to a state of mental peace, a place of internal peace, inner peace. And if you're able to become aware, it is. That's why I don't feel shame or guilty, because I had to evolve to this place, to this awareness, to even share this with y'all. Because I see how more valuable it is to all out here. It's like a war. It's like a war zone, even spiritually, physically, where you have people just going. I'm able to just breathe. I'm able to create, even in the midst of it seems chaotic. So, y'all take care of yourself. Peace and bliss and shalom.